Welcome to the annual update for the Arizona Department of Veterans Services. Today we have Department Director Colonel Wanda Wright and Assistant Deputy Director John Scott. Thank you both for being here.
You're welcome.
Colonel Wright, congratulations on completing your first year with the department.
Thank you. 1 April marked my 1-year anniversary. So it's been about 16 months, and when I walked through the door that first day, I had no idea what a VBC was, a CNA, and I really had no idea the complexities of the services that we would provide our over 600,000 Arizona veterans. Today I can say I know a little more, and I'm working hard to make those services the best they can be.
Can you tell us a little bit about what's been going on in your department during this year?
Yes, this year we've worked on women's issues, we've built cemeteries, we've marked our historical events with our tribal nations. We've done so much this year, and I just want to say to everybody that we've had a great year.
So, I understand that your benefit counselors have seen quite an increase in claims processing, and that turns into real value for Arizona's veterans. Can you go into some detail on that?
We have certainly been busy. There is no doubt about it. We processed over 19,000 claims this past year. That equates to real money, to the tune of about $23 million a month.
Okay. Can you tell us a little about the survey process that you've launched?
Sure. The director and I last year spent a significant amount of time traveling throughout the state, visiting all of our VBC offices, and really get an idea of what the pulse was, how folks were feeling about their work environment, how they were feeling about their jobs. And a lot of the feedback we got was very positive, and there were some things that we certainly wanted to look at. One of those things was looking at the pay structure. There were VBCs that were doing a lot of overtime and weren't being compensated for that. So we changed that structure so that we could accommodate that and ensure that if you were working more than 8 hours that you got paid for it.
Okay, it sounds great. I understand you've also had some office moves.
We have. We've had several office moves in the past year, and the idea is that we're trying to get our services closer to other veteran services to create a one-stop shop.
Okay,
I'd like to mention that Flagstaff and Prescott and Yuma we're working on right now, and they're going very successfully. And by moving those three locations, we are very much closer to other veteran organizations.
That makes really great sense, I think.
Me too.
Can you tell us a little, too, about the customer survey program? I understand you've got iPads and kiosks and things like that in the field. What's going on?
Sure. Prior to implementing an electronic survey, we had paper surveys, and we didn't get a very good response rate from those. We implemented a system where every VBC office now has an iPad with a survey on there. It takes roughly 2 to 3 minutes for the veteran to complete to rate how great of a job that we're doing. And overwhelmingly, of the 3,000 or so respondents that we've had, 98 to 99% customer satisfaction rates is what we've seen across the board. So, a lot of kudos to our VBCs because of their professionalism and their knowledge. They're really doing a great job out there, and that's evidenced by our customers saying, hey, you did a great job.
99%. That's quite phenomenal.
It is.
And that's what your numbers show.
I had to look at it 2 or 3 times, but yes, indeed, it was 99%.
Well, that's wonderful news.
Yes. I suppose probably the best part of it is, when you're looking at knowledge and you're looking at professionalism and courtesy, it all kind of ties into, well, would you refer one of your veteran friends to us?
Yeah.
And that's our highest mark at 99% as well. And so that's really telling of the services that we're providing.
Very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of interest in your 2 new veteran cemeteries. Can you go into those a little bit?
I can. We were very successful in getting VA grants for 2 new cemeteries. We dedicated our first cemetery in Marana this past March, and we dedicated a cemetery in Flagstaff in June. They have been wonderful assets to the communities. As we lay to rest our veterans in those locations, it makes it easier for our families to get their veterans to those spots. And that makes me very happy in our availability to provide the service for the veteran, for their final resting place, and to their families to be able to go and visit them at a location that's close to them.
Okay. So I understand the cemetery Marana, or is it Marana or Marana for people?
Depends, are you from Marana or Marana?
What do the people in Marana call it?
Marana.
Very good, thank you. I wanted to understand that better for some time. Thank you. So the Marana Cemetery was dedicated in late March, I understand, and that's been a very busy cemetery with many interments already. And then the cemetery in Camp Navajo was just recently dedicated, yes?
Yes, in June. In June of this past year. And they've seen a few burials as well. And we expect Marana to be quite busy. And Flagstaff, not so much, but they are having burials there regularly.
I understand the first interment was a Navajo code talker.
Yes, it was very exciting. There was a very nice ceremony, and in fact, one of the gentleman's name was Alfred Peaches, and a relative of Alfred actually flew from Texas. He was a Marine Corps colonel to be a part of that ceremony. So it was a very special time, and a real tribute to the Navajo code talkers, Camp Navajo, for our first interment to be a Navajo code talker.
Wonderful. Can you speak a little bit to the folks who did the work to get these facilities up and running? Did you want to talk about that?
I'd really like to thank some people who are key assets to getting the cemeteries completed. It was a little bit of an arduous process as you're working with contractors and that kind of thing. And Victor Daniels was very, very helpful. He's our project manager. We had a gentleman from ADOA, Jeff Pugh, who was very, very helpful in making sure that the last details were completed. And of course, our Mr. Barnes, who was oversight over everything, just to make sure all of this got finalized, and both places are just gorgeous. They are lovely final resting places for our veterans.
Very good. You know, it seems very much, I think, to most folks who have worked with you, that you're a very hands-on director and that you're willing to walk a mile in another's shoes.
I am. I feel I'm fortunate to be able to take the opportunity to work with our employees. I had a great time at our Marana Cemetery working as a maintenance worker alongside all the gentlemen who are working there, and I learned a lot about how we bury people, the reverence that we give to them when we bury them, and just the procedures that are used. And it was an educational experience, and I met all the guys down there, and it was just great. And I've also had another opportunity to work in both homes as a CNA. And although the work is a little tough, I'm walking all day long, is a little tough on the back, I give great honor to all those CNAs who take care of our veterans every day, because I did it. And I feel it gives me a perspective to be able to be a voice for them, to be able to work on their behalf to get some things done.
Okay.
All experiences were great, and I plan to go out and do more.
Oh, I'm sure that'll be wonderful and very welcomed. They are really some great, kind, and caring folks, both at the homes and at the cemeteries, as well as your benefit counselors. That's very clear to see. Can we change the subject a little bit, and can you speak a little bit about an update for us on the veterans education programs that your department looks after?
Sure. It's been a pretty busy year for our state approving agency. We did a little over 80 compliance survey visits this past year. In addition to those compliance surveys, we're really starting to stress our on-the-job training programs and apprenticeship programs throughout the state. It really truly is an underused capacity for somebody to find employment and gain training outside of your traditional means of going to college. So that's another area that the SAA will be focusing along with this department.
Yeah. In fact, we're meeting regularly about that as well, to see how we can use those apprenticeships to best benefit our veterans.
Okay. Is there also something called the Arizona Veteran Supportive Campuses Advisory Council? Can you talk about that?
We have an advisory council made up of the 4 major universities and some community colleges. And that group gets together to discuss issues and concerns of our student veterans. The group has been very instrumental in making sure that each of those campuses have veteran supportive educators to assist them, as well as the ability to join groups and have forums, and to be able to meet one another on a regular basis for support. And that's really, really important for those student veterans to have that support to be successful in their educational careers.
Okay, and I understand that council includes big name state universities, community colleges, and
in
training
fact,
schools?
it does. It includes vocational schools. We have cosmetology schools, trucking schools, any educational institution that we can verify can use the GI Bill. We want to have a voice in this council.
Okay. So beyond education for our veterans, what else is new to really support them going forward?
For veterans in general,
For veterans in general, in terms of programs that you might have,
Yes.
outreach, women's programs, things like this
Yes.
we've heard about.
yes. We continue to work our women's program with our advisory council. They meet once a quarter. They're doing great work. One of our big challenges right now is finding housing for homeless veteran women. We are reaching out now to our minority veterans. I'm part of the African American Commission, and I take the concerns from that commission and we try to address them. We continue to work on homelessness. We, in fact, are now in charge of the 25 cities and trying to regroup everybody to get homeless prevention to continue moving on. And so we're working a lot of things with our tribal nations. The partnering and the community that we work with are very helpful in us trying to address these issues.
That sounds great. Can you tell us a little bit specifically about the 4 women's expos that you held?
We did. We had 4 women's expos during March and April of this year. We started in Lindale, we went to Tucson, we went to Flagstaff, and we also had one at ASU in Tempe. And I think they were wonderful events in the respect that we were able to meet the needs of many women during those. I think our total was a little over 500, and we were able to get information about over 800 women. And so our outreach to women is increased, I think, probably 100-fold from what we had in the beginning.
So that's something you'll do again.
We will do it again. Every year we will have something.
Okay, very good. Thank you for all of that. When we come back, we'll be talking a little bit about your new partnership agreement with the Navajo Nation. And we're back. We've also seen that you recently signed a partnership agreement with the Navajo Nation. Can you tell us a little about that?
Well, the Navajo Nation passed a Veterans Act recently. And in that Veterans Act, it allowed them to form the Navajo Department for Veteran Services. And in doing so, they have become essentially an official organization in which we can accredit. And it's historic across the nation. This is the first tribe to be able to accomplish this, and I feel very privileged to be part of it. And I'll let John talk about the Memorandum of Understanding that we've just recently signed.
Thank you. Yeah, so we were, very, very fortunate that the Navajo Nation had reached out to us with this MOU. Essentially, what we're able to do now is to provide training for the employees that will be employed by the Navajo Nation for veteran services, utilizing our infrastructure and our quality review to ensure that the claims that they're submitting on behalf of the Navajo veterans on the tribal land there are of highest quality and highest likelihood for it being approved by VA.
Okay, so this is in relation to the Navajo Nation itself. Do you also have relations with other
We do,
tribes?
and we're continuing to build those relations. Actually, when we signed that MOU, we started getting phone calls from other sovereign nations saying, hey, we want to know how you guys are doing this because we'd like to be able to replicate. And it really truly is an honor. We're empowering people to serve their own communities and increasing the footprint of veteran benefits throughout our state.
Okay, that's great. A lot of partnership going on there. And I understand there's also a lot of partnerships going on, again, with other state agencies, especially surrounding veteran employment. Can you speak to that?
Yes. Our overarching program is called the Roadmap to Veteran Employment, and we partner with the Arizona Coalition for Military Families in managing that. And our side partners with that is the Department of Economic Security. They've been able to provide veteran employment specialists to work with our veteran benefit counselors to be able to give our veterans a one-stop shop for getting services, benefits, and trying to find employment. I think this is a really great thing for us. I think it's a wonderful partnership to have with the Department of Economic Security. Director Jeffries has been overwhelmingly responsible for the wonderful partnership that we have when it comes to employment of veterans. He has given us carte blanche to work with the veteran specialist. So much so that he has allowed us to be able to communicate between our manager of the veteran benefit counselors and their management of their veteran specialists to actually travel together this summer and go to all those locations and review them to see how better we can serve our veterans. It's very exciting.
That sounds great. I understand there's an event called the Circle of Hire that you started last fall.
We did. We proclaimed November to be Veteran Employment Month. And in doing so, we were able to do a couple of events. One was a Circle of Hire, where we invited the Department of Economic Security. We had all the DVOP and leavers, which are the Veteran Employment Specialists, and all our veteran benefit counselors to come together and talk with employers, to talk with service providers. And they were able to have sort of a consortium that day and really understand what each of them do and to be able to figure out how to synergize with each other. The second event we did was to acknowledge our Arizona veteran supportive employers. And we were able to, with the Secretary of State, acknowledge each of the employers who have done what we've asked them to do and meet the needs of veterans in their employment and work on employing other veterans. And it was a great day. We had it out on the lawn of the Capitol, and the veteran employees were very, very happy to be acknowledged.
Okay, very good. Is there also something going on with the Department of Corrections?
There is. So I belong to the CSAC committee, and that's the Constituent Services Advisory Committee for the Department of Corrections. And what we've really tried to do is increase our footprint within the prison system here in the state to assist veterans who are currently incarcerated with questions that they may have about their federal entitlement. One such program, Regaining Honor, down in Tucson, was specifically created by the Department of Corrections for veterans. It's an all-veteran unit, and we provide some outreach there. We do some benefits counseling there, file claims on behalf of veterans when they get out, advise them about any circumstances that may warrant a reduction in their benefits while they're incarcerated, or if there's family issues where the family continues to need the money, how we can continue to make that happen as a hardship. It really has been a great start for us, and we're looking to increase that footprint in coordination with our friends over at the Department of Economic Security, as our VBCs will now be touring those prison systems with the DVOPs and leavers as well.
Okay, very good. So just to clarify for our viewers, a DVOP is a Disabled Veteran Outreach Program, it must be specialist, and a leaver is a local veterans employment representative.
That's right.
Yes.
Do I have that right? Okay,
right.
Good. Hopefully others will have it right now as well. Thank you for that. I understand too, in the wrap-up on this section, that you've worked with the Vietnam Veterans of America in support of the 50th commemoration of the Vietnam War.
We have. There's a 12-year period that the Vietnam War went on, and the Department of Defense has acknowledged that, and also acknowledging that Vietnam veterans still need to be welcomed home. And so they made the 50th anniversary called the Vietnam 50th Commemoration, and that started in 2012. And we've been doing events every year to welcome home our veterans. This past year, I invited the Vietnam Veterans of America to partner with us so that we could have events across the state. It looks like now we'll have 10 events across the state, and my hope is that we see thousands of veterans in the next year. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing for us to do.
And I understand your first event was in the wonderful setting of Sedona.
It was. We had 150 attendees at that particular event. It was a wonderful event, all the colors red, white, and blue. We had great guest speakers. Colonel Tom Kirk, who was a Vietnam POW, and he had a great story to share with all of us, and the Vietnam veterans loved it.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'd like to change now to the topic of veteran homes. We hear there's potential for a new state veteran home, maybe two in the future, beyond the existing Phoenix and Tucson homes. Can you speak to that?
I can. We've had a lot of construction in the past couple of years, and we're going to be adding more. The Yuma home, which we have gotten funding for from the state legislature, and the land has been deeded. We are just now waiting for the VA federal funding to come on board so that we can begin construction down there. It's a great piece of property down there, located right next to a church and a community facility, and we're really looking forward to getting that money from the federal VA to get that started. And in this past session, the legislature set aside $10 million to build a home in Flagstaff. I expect that to take a few years to go through the process before it will actually be funded by the federal VA. But we look also forward to being able to provide that service in northern Arizona.
Okay. Well, that sounds exciting. I understand, though, too, you've now got, of your two existing veteran homes, I think one of them is about 15 years old or so, and the other one's 5 or 6 years old. How are those going in terms of maintenance and such?
Yes, the Tucson home's fairly new. It was built in 2012, but our Phoenix home is 20 years old. And we've had a lot of maintenance problems with it. And so currently we're looking into a feasibility study in order to relook at the entire facility to see what we can do to upgrade it. Right now it doesn't really meet the new model for the VA, and we'd like to make it current and much more hospitable for our residents.
Okay. And as you say, there are new standards apparently in the last 20 years from both the VA and from Medicare who provide funds to these facilities.
There are. And now instead of sort of a one facility, it's more like neighborhoods. And we think that that's a great model, and we'd like to see if we can pursue it for the Phoenix home.
Okay. I also hear there were wedding bells at one of your homes?
Yes, we had a wedding here a couple months ago. Susan and Curtis got married. Our administrator, Jim Duggar, walked Susan down the aisle. We had about 60 people here, and it's the first ever to happen in any of the homes in Arizona. The event was lovely on a lovely summer day, and they had their honeymoon right here at the Phoenix home.
That sounds great. I understand, again, and you had mentioned previously that you've done some work to accompany the CNAs and understand the work that they do in these sites. So
yes, and I look forward to working with them again.
I'm sure they do as well. So that sounds great. Can you speak a little bit now, turning to sort of partnerships, charitable, nonprofit things that your department is involved with?
Yes, we have a few other non-appropriated funds. We have the Veterans Donation Fund, which allows the department to fund 501(c)(3)s to do work for veterans. And what it allows us to do is to extend our hand across the community in order to provide additional services for veterans. Things like alternative therapies, equine therapy, art therapy, all the way up to housing for veterans and everything in between. And I feel very privileged to have the opportunity to use that fund. The fund is funded through our license plate program. Our Freedom Plate, our Women's Veteran Plate, and our Veterans Plate bring money into the department for us to put it back out there to serve veterans.
Okay, that sounds great. I understand, too, as far as the license plates, you have those 3 different plates. There are some other plates that people may have heard of that may be associated with other services or being veterans. Those are, I understand, they do not necessarily feed directly into the VDF.
They do not.
Just the 3 that you mentioned
Just the
do.
3 that I mentioned, yes.
Do you know if the driver's license, the veteran designated driver's license, also gives a little bit of a kick into the Veteran Donation Fund?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Okay, that's wonderful. And I only mention it because I'm not sure if everybody out there knows about it. So yeah. I understand that they can go to your website and find more detail on those subjects.
They can, yes. It's very popular. It's very popular.
Very good. So you talked about the VDF. I understand there's also something called the MRF. Can you talk about that?
That's right. So the Military Family Relief Fund, it's Arizona statute. Essentially, we're serving Iraq and Afghanistan veterans who deployed from Arizona or residents of Arizona. This could be for basic housing needs, it could be for utilities, car payments, anything that's preventing them from being able to maintain employment, to get employment, go to school. Certainly we want to be able to improve their quality of life, and we do that through the MRF program. in addition to MRF, within that program is our Transition in Place program, where we provide housing but also wraparound services for that veterans, typically veterans that may have some mental health issues that require a little bit more service.
Okay. And I understand that sometimes the funds from MRF can be used to help veterans who are just kind of in a rough spot, maybe making their rent payment or getting their utilities paid and so forth. That you
Yeah,
can help
that's
them out.
essentially it. And it's a tax credit, and so it's a worthwhile cause. I guess the biggest thing is make sure you send your tax credit money in early. We have a $1 million cap, and unfortunately we have to send back a lot of checks at the end of the year. So between a single individual, which is $200, or a family, which is a $400 tax credit.
As well, if somehow they don't make that MRF deadline, the Veteran Donation Fund will also accept checks as charity, and it is also you can take that off your federal taxes. As a
Okay.
donation.
Well, that's good to know. But if we want to get to MRF, we need to do it early enough in the year. We get in underneath that $1 million cap for the state tax credit.
That's right.
Okay, sounds good. So this is the fourth or fifth video, I think, that your department has produced in the past year. And we've seen you both on PBS. You're both very photogenic and easy to understand and communicative. It's a wonderful thing to see. And thank you for that. Is this the wave of the future for this department?
I think so. I believe it's important for us to educate our community as well as our veterans. And this is an easy way to get the word out. We do our videotape, we get our little bit of messaging in there, and then we send it out to the world. And it works great. We've had great feedback. In fact, I believe another state actually called our state to ask us to see our version, and they were very pleasantly surprised at what we were doing.
And we're back. This time I'd like to speak a little bit, or have you speak, about the new veteran medal that was announced on Memorial Day this year.
Yes, it's a wonderful thing for families. We are able to, through state legislation, give a Gold Star medal to families to remember those members who were killed in action and were members of Arizona. And in doing so, we can present this medal to their families as a final act for the Arizonan who died during their military service. I give great reverence to it because I think, specifically for Arizonans, we can acknowledge the death of someone and honor their families at the same time.
Right. I understand it's been very well received.
It has been very well received, and we get requests daily.
Okay. So it sounds as though your department has really been developing quite a program of transformation going forward over this past year and moving ahead. Can you maybe speak more about what's happening in the future? Where are you going next?
Yes, so just a little bit about the past. We've worked on strategic planning since last September. And we have made great gains in our ability to focus on our mission, which we've changed, our vision, and our values, and to understand what our key goals are. And now, moving forward, we're going to train all of the individuals which belong to our department so that they understand how to keep continuous improvement part of our culture. So we'll see in the next 8 or 9 months training occurring at the highest levels all the way down to the lowest levels, so that people can understand that we are a transparent department that will allow our employees to be able to voice their ideas, and that they can use those ideas to make our department more effective, and their voices can be heard. And I think that's really, really important, and that's one of the reasons why I've gone to such great lengths to work in our agency at these levels, so that we can hear their voices and understand their work environments and what we can do to improve them so that we have better service for our veterans.
Okay, so I hope all of the employees of the department are hearing that loud and clear, that there is an invitation to be able to speak freely
Yes.
about things where they see opportunities
Yes.
to do better for our veterans.
Yeah,
So-
it's definitely a culture change for us, but I know that we can do it.
Sounds like a great open door policy.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we've reached the end of our allotted time for this session. Do either or both of you have any final comments that you'd like to make?
I would just like to say, I can't do this alone. It's a group effort. We have great employees in our department. Every day I see the work that we're doing with homelessness, with our residents in the homes, at the cemeteries with the families, coming up with a Gold Star Medal. All of these are attributes and honors to our veterans. And I love the fact that our employees come up with these ideas. They're making everything happen every day. And I think our department is well known in the state because of that. And I want to thank them all genuinely from the bottom of my heart for the work that they're doing every day.
That's great. John, do you have any thoughts?
I would echo the director's sentiment. I think that it's been a year full of great ideas, change. I believe half of our VBC staff is new. I'm relatively new, only having been here for a year. But we're going and headed in the right direction. And there's going to be some transformation, and culture will shift over time. But we want people to be excited about their jobs. There's no greater honor than to serve those who have served us, and it's truly what compels us to get up and go to work every morning. And I think if we keep that in mind, we'll continue to achieve the goals that we're seeing now and to surpass them in the future.
Yeah. And just one last thing. Congratulations to everyone for a great year. And we have a little bit of work to do still, but we're on the rise, and we just need to continue to aim high.
That's great. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time today, and we will see you again very soon.
Thanks.
Thanks.